Hi folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee, and the second part of our apprenticeship special with some fantastic colleagues on talking about their apprenticeship journeys, whether they're currently doing it, whether they've finished it, just telling us about some of the skills that they use day to day at work, and offering some insights into apprenticeship. So let's bring them all on. So folks, welcome again, and also Katie, welcome for the first time. So this is sort of our second part around ask some questions about apprenticeships, but I want to quickly go around just who you are, what you do very briefly, and then we'll kick off with the questions. So Katie, over to you.
So I'm the administration officer at Osiris IT, which is a small local IT firm. I do accounts and HR. So I recently completed my level 3 HR apprenticeship. So yeah, that's what I do.
Fantastic. Liam and Jake?
So I'm Jake. I'm an apprentice structural engineer here at Superstructures, and day to day we design different superstructure elements and to basically make the building structurally sound to make sure it doesn't fall over.
Good stuff.
I've been here for 2 years now, doing the same sort of thing as Jake. Making sure buildings don't fall down, making sure old buildings are safe to build with. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you two are like Ant and Dec sitting side by side in the same sort of place together. Liz, over to you.
So I am a apprentice site manager working with Morgan Sindel, so looking at organising different subcontract works on a construction site and organising scheduling and different works that are going on, really.
Fantastic. And Alicia?
So I'm an ACA graduate trainee, and I'm working with Larkin Gowan. So we're an accountancy firm based in East Anglia. So we provide like various range of services, like accountancy services. So I work as part of like audit and assurance team. So I'm out on client site auditing their financial statements, or I could be like in the office preparing like financial statement that you see in the company's house. So yeah, that's what I do.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, folks, Liam and Jake, I want to kick off with you sort of to begin with. How do you feel apprenticeships help not only yourselves as apprentices and individuals, but how it also helps a business as well?
I think on a personal standpoint, I think the skills and roles that you can learn while you're in a workplace is a lot more valuable to you and the business compared to going to university full time. And the value to the business is that you're growing and developing your skills with them, so that you're not a stranger when you come out of university. You've worked your way up with them, and you know all the people in the company and how it runs, and all the systems that they use. So I think it's invaluable, really, to what you can do at an apprenticeship.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that as well. Also, being a sort of a degree apprenticeship in the office environment, as you sort of progress and more apprentices come along through the business, it tends to be easier for new apprentices to learn off the slightly older apprentices rather than speaking to direct people who have qualified and done all their degrees and everything. Sometimes it's easier to learn off someone who's at a similar stage to you. But I think that's where the benefits of the business come into play.
So, Liam, were you sort of one of the first apprentices then at Superstructures?
Yeah, so I was the first apprentice to come through, and then we've had one more a year after me, and then this year we've had Jake and another apprentice.
So I suppose in terms of your professional development and just having folks around the office you can talk to, actually having more apprentices in the business is going to support you and also support them as they're joining, because you're just going to be able to relate a little bit more, I'd have thought.
Yeah, exactly. I'm able to teach them what I know from my point of view, which is sometimes easy for them to understand. And it also develops me as well, because you never really know something until you teach it, which I find. So a lot of the time I'm learning just as much as they are.
And similarly, I'll open it up to anybody who wants to answer around, how do you feel, coming back to that question, how do you feel apprenticeships help not only yourselves, but how do you feel it helps the business as well? Who wants to take that? Go to Alicia on that one.
I think apprenticeships are like a great scheme for all of the businesses because they can really hire out upcoming talents, into the business. So you can, for the business, you can really find potential in individuals and really help them through their learning and development so that they can grow. And at the end of the day, it all comes back in circle because the trainees that you hire are the ones who are going to be able to help your business flourish. So I think it's like a good both way, learning and development for the trainees, as well as helping the business flourish in the long term, because that's the effort that the business is able to put into the employees and make sure they're able to grow. So yeah, I think that's a great advantage to have for businesses.
Fantastic, good stuff. And I want to come on to the question that somebody just submitted as well. So do you feel like a full employee as an apprentice, or like a trainee, or not quite a full employee? So I suppose what they're trying to get at there is that, do you really feel sort of part of that inner team as an apprentice, or do you feel like a bit of an imposter for a little bit? Who wants to tackle that one? We'll get to Katie.
Oh,
let's go Katie and then over to Liz.
Yeah, I think I speak on behalf, I think, of our apprentices. We have quite a lot in our company. I think they all definitely feel part of the team. We have a very young team anyway. We hire, I wouldn't say exclusively apprentices, but pretty much. So I think you're definitely welcomed within the team. You need the people around you to help you grow. So I think you have to feel like a full employee. Obviously, you are going to be like any new employee. You're still learning the job. And people expect that of you. They don't expect you to come in knowing 100% of the job as you come in. They know you're going to come in and learn. But as long as you're in the right company, I can't say for every company, but if you're in the right company, they make you feel like part of the team as soon as you join, definitely.
Fantastic. And Liz, over to you.
I definitely feel a part of the company that I'm working for. You're really encouraged to pursue different things and take on other responsibilities outside of your job role as well. And I think by taking on those different responsibilities, it makes you feel a bit more part of the team because you have different things and different views to contribute. So when you're doing teams meetings and stuff, I think it really just helps amalgamate it all into a really good experience, to be fair, within the company. Lets you expand on your different relationships you have within your team and outside of that.
Brilliant, thank you. And coming on to the next question. So how did you hear about some of the apprenticeship opportunities? So I'm going to go to Liam and Jake on that one.
So originally I found it out through college. So they advertised various different apprenticeships, and we had people come in. There wasn't as many apprenticeships as there were universities at our open days, but there were quite a considerable amount. And there's always tons of apprenticeships that you can look through the government website, and that was where I kept looking. And eventually I found superstructures through the college, which worked out in my favour. So yeah.
Yeah, mine was quite similar, really. I found out through college. They were doing events and things for apprenticeship companies to come in, offer, say what they have to offer, and then you could walk around within your lunch or whatever and just sort of ask any questions you have. And then I found out mine through the idea of the whole degree apprenticeship, and I sort of tailored it to what I found interesting, and thought, oh well, there might be other companies that will offer this for me. So I emailed around, and that's how I found Superstructures in the end, just emailing around.
Fantastic. And Alicia, what about yourself?
So for me, it was slightly different because I'd obviously done my university degree. So after my university degree, I just wanted to gain like a professional qualification that was recognized globally. So when I was looking around doing some research, I realized like they do like apprenticeship level 7s as well. So that's somebody that can start after the university degree. So that's how I found out about the apprenticeship.
Brilliant. And Katie, what about yourself? Oh, on mute.
I should be no better. I'm in an IT company. I left school a long time ago. Apprenticeships weren't really talked about back then. It was all university. This is, oh God, 9-10 years ago. So yeah, we didn't really have apprenticeships talked about. It was something my dad mentioned, so I did one when I was 18. And then obviously joining this company, it was just something that is really encouraged these days. It's something we look at and go through. So yeah, that's how I went about it. But yeah, when I was leaving school, it certainly wasn't something that was really ever talked about or shared about. But it's definitely a lot more apparent these days, I would say.
Oh, that's good. And Liz, was it sort of through Morgan Sindall's education links with a lot of schools and colleges? Is that how you heard about it?
Yes, so I had a talk from Morgan Sindall at my college, I think 2 times, and then we were encouraged to join. They set up, because of COVID, no one could get work experience, and a part of my course, we had to try and get 360 hours of work experience, which no one obviously could get because of COVID. So to try and make sure that we could pass the course, they asked Morgan Sindall, and Morgan Sindall offered to do a online work experience, which was 1 day a week for a month, when we had like our own mock project, and we had to have a project manager, a designer, a quantity surveyor, and different aspects like that, which we had all in the team, which we worked on. And then from there, really, that's where they tried to push the apprenticeships with us that are in the local area. And we also had several other different companies come to us, and I think a lot of the companies around me certainly always looking at the colleges to try and find people that are coming out of there, because that's what they also know that they're looking for in addition to universities. So yeah.
Brilliant. And a question for all of you, what do you feel was the biggest difference going from either sixth form or college or, whatever you're doing previously to then joining and becoming an apprentice? What were some of the biggest sort of challenges that you felt like you had to overcome during that transition? Go to Liam and Jake to begin with.
I think one of the main challenges is the move from just being in education to being in work and education at the same time, and managing and learning how to manage those 2 lifestyles essentially. So with at our company, we do 1 day a week where we get to just do our university work and work through that kind of thing, and the other 4 days down for work, on practical work. And I think that's probably the best way of doing it, is the mixing of, and that's the beauty of an apprenticeship, is that it does have that practical and learning base that you can go from.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that, to be honest. The main transition is working every day, obviously, but you've then got to incorporate the uni side into it, and there's obviously a very different environment from working environment to college environment. Like, everything's very sort of regimented, and you come in each day and you do what you've got to, whereas college was very flexible. Like, you'd have some lessons some day, and then others would be sort of, they might be on, they might be online. It was all very, but I think that's the biggest change, is coming from a work environment from a school environment.
Definitely. Question for everybody: how do you sort of manage that balance between the two? Between you're working, you're having to study at the same time. Have you got any tips for anybody who's now about to embark on that? And sort of any advice you've got in terms of how sort of manage that lifestyle? Who wants to kick off?
I think you just have to be sensible with yourself and just sort of say, look, I've got work to do, or I've got this uni work to do. I can't be, if you're struggling at work to fit it all in, you have got to do work outside of hours and things. You can't be going out and partying or whatever. You have actually got to sit down, because you have got the working lifestyle that the uni students might not have. That's the sacrifice you give.
No, that's fair. And Katie, I think you were about to...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what can be really important is, if you have got, we also set aside 1 full day a week. And I think it's really important to take yourself out of that working environment for that day. So if you've still only got, say, a half-day course or a half-day lecture that day, take yourself, into the library, go home, somewhere where you can just focus again. Because I know we've had apprentices who come in afterwards, and you will get distracted by all the work stuff that's going on around you, and you'll try and help out, I'm sure. And it's best to take that time fully away and focus on it. And as other people have said, you do have to put in more time than just that one day you're given. You're not going to get through an entire degree apprenticeship just with your 1 day a week. You will need to put in some personal time in that, definitely.
Brilliant advice, thank you. And Liz, I just want to come back to you briefly. So you mentioned you did sort of 1 day a week work experience with Morgan Sindall.
Yeah.
How important do you feel work experience is to young people?
Absolutely vital. I think I definitely wouldn't know where I wanted to go until then. By doing that work experience, I didn't know. I know I wanted to go into construction because I like the creativity with the mathematics together, but
Yeah.
I still didn't have a complete understanding of what kind of course I wanted to do with apprenticeships if I wanted something that was office based or on site. So doing that enabled me. I like managing people. I learned that because I did like the project management role. I like learning from people. I like looking into environment and sustainability. So that's kind of something that I'm passionate about and that I could work up to, whereas some other people weren't too sure what they wanted and figured actually got put in a role they weren't too keen on initially, but actually really enjoyed it because they're like, I can work well with numbers or building services for interesting. I find that really interesting. So a lot of people went down that route. So I think you definitely need that experience and listening as well. So throughout that 5 weeks, we had different people in those careers come and talk to us to help us with this project that we were producing because it was a real project. And that also gave you that extra insight and you could ask questions about their career and being able to work with them and alongside and doing it on your own at the same time, it allowed you to kind of discover where you want to go, I think. So I'd really
Fantastic.
recommend definitely getting that experience.
Good advice. And coming to the next question. So how long does a degree apprenticeship take to complete? Who wants to take that one?
I think mine is going to be at 5 years.
They're normally
Fantastic.
about 4 to 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
mine Yeah, I think like for me, because I came from university, mine is like 3 years, but for accountancy. So if you were to start straight after college, it would probably take you 5 years to get fully qualified as an accountant.
Fantastic. And coming to the next question. So what do you think an apprentice brings to a business rather than either a graduate or someone who has experience in this role already? So I suppose be careful answering this one before you, insult a colleague back in the office, especially those who are currently in the office. Who wants to go for that one? Before I pick on someone.
I can go. I mean, I think apprentices, we always find that they often, how do I put this? They can have really fresh ideas because they haven't been molded by a previous company or they haven't had sort of ideas or ways set in them in how to do things. So they can be really innovative in, how to solve problems, and they can definitely, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but kind of be molded into the company. So they really, you get them to work exactly how it works for your company rather than being, as I said, set in your ways, which you can often get from especially someone who's been in other companies.
Good advice. Who else wants to comment on that one?
Yeah, there's obviously benefits to having both apprentices and graduates or people from other companies, because people from other companies can come in and they can bring ideas from other companies and improve or give ideas which might help. But like you said, an apprentice comes in fresh. They don't have any experience of what other companies are doing, so you can mold them to the way you work. Put them in your mindset rather than having to break bad habits.
Good advice. Anybody else want to comment on that one before we then move on to the next question?
No, nothing to add,
No.
Really. No.
Silence. In summary there, everybody thinks everybody's awesome. Next question. So if you get stuck with an aspect of your studies, do you often ask for advice from your work colleagues?
I would say so. I think
Definitely.
it's one of those things where everyone's been through it or something similar. So I think there's always aspects of, even the way people learn is different. So I think the way people can explain, like Liam said earlier, the way people can explain might be slightly different. That makes you go, now I know how to do it, instead of reading from a textbook and seeing it that way. So yeah, I think there's a lot of value when it comes to speaking to other people in the office and learning from them over a textbook.
Fantastic, great advice. And one last question for you all. If you can give any advice, say, an employer, somebody who's thinking about taking on apprentices and isn't quite sure, what's your advice to them in terms of the real tangible benefits, as a final sign off? So go to Katie to begin with.
Tangible benefits are, firstly, as I said earlier, you really do get to mold that person to work for your company in the way that you work. I found all of our apprentices are so eager to learn still, which is a really important thing. So often you can have people think that not that they know everything, but they know all of the key things. But apprentices, I found, are always key to learn. So our apprentices will sometimes do a level 3 and then say, actually, I want to learn more. And they strive to learn and develop and grow, which I think is really beneficial within your company. And yeah, I've always found them great. We, as I said, we don't solely recruit apprentices, but we definitely go towards that. And you give that young person often that benefit to get into a career that maybe they didn't think they could get into because they didn't have the work experience behind them, for example, or something like that. So it gives them that opportunity to get into something they really love and enjoy. And then you have passionate employees.
Fantastic. Alicia?
Wow, I don't think I can add much after what Katie said. I think she literally summed it up so well. I think the tangible benefit would just be that as an employer, you're able to really harness the individual's potential and just linking it back to the company itself benefiting in the long term from what the individuals are able to deliver once they do enjoy something that they discover, So I think that's where they can really benefit from as a businesses.
Fantastic. Liz?
I've actually got a different kind of view on it. I think definitely what you said. In addition, I think as well, by bringing on apprentices, obviously now the new day and age, we've got technology is really advancing, and I think the younger generation have certainly got more of a grasp on how to use it and the different technologies that is out there that we can use. So for instance, in my industry, it's a lot of like CAD, BIM, just using different modeling softwares for building. And I think a lot of the planners that I've worked with and scheduling and bid management aren't completely familiar with it. So it's something that almost the younger generation are encouraging our company to do, I think, actively as a whole, and introducing different training courses for other people so we can all kind of help each other out by implementing them, which I think is quite cool.
Fantastic. And gents, over to you.
I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to you're looking at an apprentice as someone being there long term, and you developing them to become the best in whatever they do. And I think that the skills that you can learn through that is invaluable to the company, really, because they can go on to work their way up inside a company and even have different viewpoints on different things that they do in the company, so systems and things like that. There's always room to be improved in every business. No business is ever perfect, and I think having apprentices and young people that can come into businesses and say, oh, maybe we could do this a little bit differently. I think that's probably one of the best aspects of it as a whole, and learning those skills that you need to complete the job.
Brilliant. And Liam?
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that, to be fair. And also, people who tend to be with a company for a while, they tend to get stuck in their ways with things, and sometimes it's good, but it's not always. And there are, like Jake says, there's always ways to improve, and it tends to be the people who are coming into the business who see those things that could be improved and then try and do something with it, rather than just be, oh, that's how we've always done it. That's how we'll keep doing it.
Fantastic. Awesome. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been brilliant.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
So folks, that's the of the Careers and Coffee Apprenticeship Special. So huge thanks for watching, and you can find all the details, those organisations below in the description as well. So again, huge thank you for joining us on Careers and Coffee today.